topic this morning is tying and untying the knots of cosmic delusion. Beautiful topic. And last week, we heard the words from the Bible, "The light shined in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not." In one sense, this means that if we live solely on the physical plane, we aren't even aware of any reality that's more subtle than the physical world. The darkness can't understand the light. A very rational thinking relative or colleague may ask you, well, why do you waste your time in this meditation anyways? What's it all about? And it could be that there's really no words that you could explain it to him. It's like there's two different languages. And what we can do is not judge that person, but to love them, to send them that same divine love. And it said, what is night to the worldly man is day to the yogi. And what is day to the worldly man is night to the yogi. And you're either seeking for something more or you're not seeking. And we'll all get there eventually. I remember when I was growing up, a popular pet was a hamster, and this little rodent who came in a cage, and in the cage was a wheel, and it was this treadmill that the hamster would just run on constantly. And it was a circle. It's sort of like he never got tired of going around the circle. And he never got anywhere. And so it is the wheel of samsara, of lifetime after lifetime, that the power of maya, of cosmic delusion, somehow has hypnotized us into the superstition that this physical world is real, and this physical body is all there is. And that treadmill, that wheel that seems endless, seems to be the only purpose to our existence. But every now and then there's a hamster who gets tired of going around the wheel and starts to look for a new experience, starts to look for something else. As Yogananda said, at a certain point, we all reach anguishing monotony with our present existence. And we wonder, perhaps, can we still play our outward role in the world and yet inwardly be seeking the light, and inwardly cultivating happiness and peace of mind? In this light, I was reflecting a bit on my own mother, and she was certainly not a spiritual seeker, and yet she learned many spiritual lessons. And she had a very difficult life until her middle age, and her parents had very little and had a hard life. And then she did well in school and was hopeful. And then at 12 years old, her mother died in childbirth to twins. And she had to stop her education and be at home, take care of the twins, cook for her father. And then later, she got married, and she became a widow at a very young age. And all alone, she would raise us 4 children. But she never complained. She saw put the best possible light in the situation. She accepted what came to her, and she not only made the best of it, but she was as cheerful and positive as she possibly could be. As children, we would complain every now and then that we didn't have what our friends had, or maybe we'd complain about the food, and we'd hear one of her frequent earthy mantras along the lines of, "That's all I can afford," or "Like it or lump it." And we didn't appreciate that advice at the time. And yet we learned so many lessons, from it, that she taught us to accept what comes and to find joy in simple things. And we learned so much more from that experience had she just given us everything that we desired. And when she got older, when she didn't have to work so hard, she was basically retired. She never stopped. She just continued to be busy, but in a creative way. She would improve her mind by reading, and she was always creating. She was gardening, she was cooking, she was knitting or needlework, and everything she created, she gave as a gift to someone else. And our lesson here is to keep looking towards the light, to keep seeing the positive. When God gives us lemons, we can make lemonade. And Yogananda Ji said, whatever comes, good or bad, it will be turned to good if you see God and refuse to acknowledge the power of evil or trouble. It will all be turned to good if you see God and refuse to acknowledge the power of evil or trouble. Yogananda Ji tells in the Autobiography the story of, in the First World War, he was meditating at his family home in Calcutta in his attic room, and suddenly during his meditation he was mentally drawn to Europe and the war, and he felt himself being swept overboard. He was a soldier, he was swept overboard, he was swimming to shore, and finally he reached the shore and he was shot. And he felt himself dying. And then suddenly he was back sitting in his meditation room. And he felt his body, and he was just so thrilled that he was really alive. A moment later, he was brought back into the body of the dead man on the beach. And he was so puzzled and said, "Am I dead or am I alive?" And then a voice came to him, and it said, "What has life or death to do with light? I have made you in the image of my light. The relativities of life and death belong to the cosmic dream. Behold your dreamless being. Awake, my child, awake." Our experiences are probably not quite so dramatic as that, and yet we have our ups and downs. We have that day where it's just so difficult to meditate, and another day when it's easy. And we have a bad mood. All of these things are passing. And whether we go up or down or have good days or bad, these are things that are part of that passing, temporary, cosmic delusion. And the light is always with us. The light is always here. And know that the light is always here. Whether we call it light or inner peace or love, look for that. As it says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. And that light will always be victorious. It may seem like it takes an awful long time, but in the end, the light will be victorious. And we want to attune to that light, no matter what is happening outwardly. Do our very best to attune to the light. If we don't feel it in one moment, if we continue to try, it will come back to us in the next moment. In the Gita is that very beautiful passage where Sanjay describes this cosmic light of the cosmic form of Krishna when he says, and I'll close with this, were 1,000 suns to appear together in the sky, their brilliance could suggest but dimly the splendor of that exalted being. Thank you.
The continuation again of last week, Keshava was just quoting, this was divine light and the darkness could not comprehend it. And what Keshava said is, what does light, divine light, have to do with life or death in this material plane? And last week we were talking about how Yogananda used to compare our lives as a movie set or as actors in a play, and that God wrote the script, he's directing the action, he's playing the roles. And so, yeah, we can figure that out. Yeah, I could see that. But then why do we cling so much to our roles? You know, it's like, this is who I am. This is where I was born. This is my religion. This is my country. This is my family. This is my job. This is what I look like. And, you know, we think, well, no, I'm not attached to that. But then, you know, let somebody try to criticize you or threaten that in some way. And how do we react? So the idea is that if we argue that this is who I am, then we get to keep this is who I am. And we want to move beyond this little form and this little self. There's a saying, and I don't know who said it, but it said, argue for your limitations and they will be yours. You know, we don't want to argue for our limitations. And this divine light that Keshava is talking about has nothing to do with the material plane. On the material plane, we have light and darkness, cold and warmth, night and day, all of these things on the material plane. But when you have divine light, there is no opposite. When you have Satchidananda, there is no opposite. When you have divine love, there is no opposite. Human love, opposite is hatred. Human light, material light, opposite is darkness. But so if there is this divine, infinite, eternal light, then what is the darkness that can't comprehend it? It's our ignorance. It's our lack of awareness of the light. And that we're just not aware of it. And so the whole spiritual path is really about becoming more and more aware of who we really are. And you know, sometimes when we're having a bad day and we don't want to get out of bed, we just want to pull the blankets up and say no. You know, this is the darkness trying to stay in the darkness. Now, I actually don't want to go out into the light. And we have friends like that, right? Not feeling too good, maybe depressed. It's like, come on, let's go out. Let's go for a walk. Let's go chant. Let's go to satsang. No. You know, I'm fine the way I am. I'm happy sitting here in the darkness, in my limited reality. Also, no, this is who I am. This is who I am. This is what I am. This is my family. This is my job. This is my situation. This is mine. And I will defend it. So that is a lack of awareness, and that is the darkness that cannot comprehend the light that is always there waiting for us. And, we think we can't move beyond our role that God has given us. Of course, we need to embrace this incarnation. This is what our karma has brought us. This is an opportunity for us to grow and to learn, and God has given us this opportunity, so we don't want to put down this incarnation or say that it's not good. But we have to be able to look beyond it and get more and more aware of what's surrounding us, surrounding our situation, our job, our family, our life here. We think that we're being unselfish when we open the door for somebody or let somebody else have the parking place, and we're expanding beyond our little selfish selves. Just think of the Yogananda as reality when Swami was helping him walk and he was having a hard time walking. And he said, "Oh, you're so kind for helping me walk." And of course Swami said, "Sir, you're the one who's kind." And Yogananda said, "Sometimes I can't remember whose body I'm in. I can't remember whose legs I need to move." I mean, can we imagine that reality, that we can't even, remember, am I in those legs or I'm in those legs? And so, when we have a choice of being selfish or being angry or just wanting to divert ourselves, like through a glass of wine or through watching violent movies or through just running away and pulling the blankets up, when we try to darken our awareness, we are not helping ourselves transcend our limitations. We are just arguing for them and saying, "No, I want to stay in the dark." And so we want to instead look at our choices. Where can I choose to be selfless? Where can I choose to give more than take? How can I be more loving? And so as we become aware of our choices, we start to say, even though I was impatient and angry right then, at least I'm aware of it. I remember I thought that was great progress on the spiritual path when at least I could notice that I was being angry instead of just being angry and reacting. It's like, no, look at that. I had a choice. I made the wrong choice, but at least I'm aware of the choice. Because as that awareness grows, maybe next time I'll choose to be selfless. I'll choose to hold my tongue. Because awareness is everything on the spiritual path. And so even in our very first meditation class, when we do that awareness meditation, listen to the sounds outside this room, listen to the sounds inside, become aware of the feeling of our bodies on the chair. Now become aware of our breath. Sit still, watch your breath. This is awareness. And this is what the masters bring us. It's like, become more aware. What's going on in your thoughts? Where is your consciousness? Is it going out to all these things in the world, or is it going upward towards divine light, towards love, towards joy, towards peace? Just where is it? Maybe just notice it. Maybe I can't help it. It's just going out. I just want to go shopping. That's okay. Or I just want to go back to sleep. That's okay. But if we're aware of it, then the next time maybe there's nothing wrong with shopping. But, the next time we may say, instead, with that time, I'm going to go be in satsang. I'm going to go be with spiritual friends and have an interesting discussion. Or I'm going to go play some chants on the harmonium. Or I'm going to, meditate. So I heard Asha Nayaswami one time say, always do better than your worst. If you always do better than your worst, you're going in the right direction. And Saint Teresa of Avila said, when I fall down, I notice that I'm getting up more and more quickly. And so just thank God for the grace that He's helping us to get up more and more quickly every time we slip, every time we fall. That's why we're born, to do this internal battle of taking my consciousness and bringing it out, and then either bringing it up or bringing it down? Is this delusion? Is this darkness that can't comprehend the light that's constantly pulling me to go back to sleep? Is that going to win the battle? Or is that longing to experience that God's light all around us, experience His love, is that going to win the battle today? And just be aware of it, which is, it's also our energy. What's our energy doing? Is it going down? Yogananda gave us the energization exercises, and he said, if I were to have one technique, if I were stranded on a desert island, I would choose the energization exercises, because learning to be aware of what's happening with my energy and learning to control my energy will ultimately give me the answer of complete awareness. And so just energizing, where is my energy? Oh, it's in my foot, it's in my leg, it's in my shoulder. During the day, where's my energy? Is it going down? Is it going out in, restlessness? Or is it going up and down? I'm happy, now I'm sad. Or is it going upward? Is it elevated? Am I calm? Am I thinking of God? So our energy we can direct, our consciousness we can be aware of where it is. So this is the battle on the spiritual path. And that chant, wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. I mean, when God created us, it's like, here come the waves out of the ocean of infinite spirit. And now we're these individual egos. And when our wave is higher, we're perhaps competing and clashing with other waves. And when our wave is low, like a bulge on the ocean, Yogananda said to Swamiji of his consciousness, just a bulge on the ocean, because he's so one with the ocean of spirit. So the lower the wave, the more we're merging in with spirit. That's like sattva guna. And raja guna is this energy that's just always going out. Where are we going to direct that energy? And tamo guna is just, I want to go back to sleep. I've got this energy pulling me down. So this wave, we're constantly being created, and then we want to go back to the ocean. So that's what the masters come to show us how to do. And Kriya Yoga, it's guiding of that energy back into our center, drawing that energy up higher and higher to the spiritual eye, from where we can experience divine light, where we can experience peace, calmness, joy. And so the masters come, they give us these amazing techniques. All true religions teach us how to get centered and uplift our energy so we can experience that light. Also in the Autobiography of a Yogi, Lahiri Mahashaya says, his disciples are there with him, and suddenly he gets distressed, and he said, I'm drowning in the sea near Japan. My consciousness is commingled with the consciousness of these hundreds of others drowning around me. It was not limited to his little self. And the next day in the papers talked about a great tragic boat tragedy where hundreds of people died. And he could experience this. His consciousness was omnipresent. And the divine vision, Yogananda gives us the definition, divine vision is center everywhere and circumference nowhere. And Swami Kriyananda one time was with a group of his students, and they were in Disneyland, and it was the evening parade, and there were lots and lots of people. And he said, let's just sit down. It was just right on the sidewalk next to the parade amongst all these people. And he said, let's try now, let's meditate. And while we're meditating, let's try to experience our consciousness as our consciousness is in all these people all around us. Try to expand your awareness to be in the consciousness of all these people all around us. So, excuse me 1 second. So our awareness, it needs to expand into infinity, just like masters, just like Lahiris. It needs to expand into infinity, and it seems so far away from my reality. Like, That's great for the masters, but not for me. This is just not my reality. I'm very much stuck in this form. But the spiritual path is not linear. It's not like I'm standing here and I'm trying to be right now where master's consciousness is. Yes, we need to attune ourselves to that consciousness. But it's just an ever increase of our awareness until we're completely self-aware, until we're completely aware of God around us all the time. And meditation, soul communion, this is how we get that awareness. And so suddenly we're aware. And when we're aware, the darkness goes away. It's like suddenly we can comprehend the light. There's that story in Autobiography of a Yogi where Yogananda arrives in Puri, and he proudly brings these cauliflowers to his guru, Sri Yukteswar. And then they all go for a walk on the beach, and Yogananda's meant to lock the ashram, and he doesn't lock the ashram. And Sri Yukteswar says to him, divine contemplation is no excuse for laziness. And so then he gives him a lesson of radiomagnetism, and since Sri Yukteswar's consciousness is also omnipresent, he catches the consciousness of a kind of a crazy man walking by and puts in him the thought of a cauliflower. He goes into the ashram, shows Yogananda he didn't lock it, takes the cauliflower, leaves the gold and the money, but takes the cauliflower. And Sri Yukteswar's description of this was that his consciousness is like a radio wave. He can tune in to the thoughts in the ether and connect with that crazy man's thought. But that's also where he says thoughts are universally, not individually rooted. And so where are we going to attune our radio waves? To the conscious, omnipresent consciousness of the masters whose consciousness is center everywhere, circumference nowhere, where their awareness is of that divine light and that divine love? Or is it just going to be to the television or to some mode of escape or some way that we're going back to sleep? So that's our choice. That's the daily battle. And I'll just end with this quote of Swamiji's from Rays of the Same Light. And he says, ours is the choice. So long as we choose to live on a materialistic plane, we shall never behold the one true light. So long as we choose to live selfishly, we shall never know divine love. So long as we choose those aggressive actions whose end is always suffering, we shall never know divine joy. And yet, God's light and joy forever surrounds us. It dwells within us. It calls to us with longing in the silence of our souls. Reach out to me. Claim me for your own. The ever blissful Lord is never indifferent to our human griefs. His grace, however, awaits us on its own plane of reality. To know it, we must reach up to it with devotion in the deep silence of inner communion.